So let's start by sitting upright. The head is suspended from above. And the body is relaxed at ease, letting go of all the unnecessary tension in your muscles. Softening the heart, the solar plexus. Let your breath gradually sink down into the belly. Breathing in a way that feels nice, that's slow, comfortable, deep. Gently smiling a bit with your lips, your eyes. Let your eyes become soft, relaxed. Receiving all of yourself with kindness, with compassion. Let your consciousness, your mind spread out into the whole body, feeling the entire body, saturating every cell of your body with consciousness. Breathing in, feeling the body. Breathing out, let everything become soft. Let everything open up. Releasing all that stored up, pent up tension. a little bit more open, a little bit more soft with each out breath. Just maintaining that simple rhythm, simple task. Breathing in, feeling the body. Breathing out, releasing, softening. Letting go of all these pockets of tension, dissolving. All this contraction that's in the body. Notice the popular spots where usually a lot of contraction accumulates would be the forehead, the jaws, the tongue, the shoulders, the heart, the belly. With each out breath, the body dissolves a bit more, becomes more transparent, hollow, spacious. You may even get the feeling as if your entire body is made out of breath. then we just let your attention rest the breathing. As you breathe in, simply know that you're breathing in. As you breathe out, know that you're breathing out. Now the challenge for most people here is to keep the breath in mind. You'll quickly see that the mind is very restless, nervous, agitated, uncomfortable, and constantly needs to race around and go to all kinds of objects because it has no peace. It's not cool, not calm, not collected. So in order to strengthen your mind, we need to train to let the mind collect again, come back to its center. And we do that by stabilizing it with the breath. It's training to keep the breath in mind, very gently. You don't want to use force. As soon as you notice that you get distracted, you gently return, releasing your eyes, softening the forehead. I'll see if you can be mindful for the duration of one breath, just one. And then another one. Each breath is like one meditation session. Knowing the first moment of the in-breath and how it evolves all the way to its end, to the last moment of breathing in. And knowing the out-breath from the beginning to its end. Now, what is it that tells you whether you're breathing in or out? How can you tell the difference? Let your mind rest right there with that feeling. Please remember, for a lot of people, there's a tendency to be very pushy, very aggressive, like trying to do it perfectly and forcing the mind to the breath. Instead of doing it like this, let the mind rest with your breathing. Think of it as resting. And just for this one breath, and it's perfectly okay to get distracted, totally normal. In fact, it's really good each time you notice that you're distracted. Just gently working on the ability to keep the continuity unbroken. Just knowing the in-breath, knowing the out-breath. And once the attention becomes more stable, you're more centered, we can begin to open the space of awareness, allowing all kinds of experiences to arise and pass within it. We're going to start by observing the experience of sound, just hearing the various sounds. And from this stable point, you can notice how the sounds arise and pass, how different sounds come to visit you almost every second. You can clearly observe how your attention goes from sound to sound without any effort. And the next experience is feelings, sensations in the body. And just like sound, they too arise, change and pass without effort. Because you, as the observer, are well centered, you're not moving with those sensations, so you can see them come and go clearly. Not only are there sounds and sensations, but also thoughts. All kinds of thoughts. A voice in your head, incessantly talking about this and that, judging. Liking, disliking, wanting, not wanting, following, resisting. And that too can be seen, can be observed. And when you observe it, it's the same as with everything. Thoughts arise and pass before your eyes, without any effort. Just like sounds, and just like sensations. Notice that you, as the observer, do not arise and pass with those things. Thoughts come and go, you stay. Feelings come and go. You're still here, though. See if you can remain aware and see where your attention goes. Hearing, feeling, or thinking. Where is my attention right now? Where is it right now? Just being like a witness, like an observer to the flow of your experience. Whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, just watching it. As opposed to being lost in it, victimized by it. If your mindfulness is still untrained and weak, then it might be a good idea to just simply stay with the breathing, just staying centered, anchored in the breath. Either observing the flow of your experiences, or observing just only the breathing. And you're on time. If you like, you can slowly come back, open your eyes, gently stretch a little bit. If you can simply remain with your breathing, staying anchored in the perception of your breath, knowing whether you're breathing in or out. Even if your eyes are open, it's perfectly possible and fine to do. So welcome everyone, it's good to see you. Nice to have you. Now today's topic is based on a conversation that I've had with a friend. Quite a recent discussion on different types of knowing, different types of awareness or consciousness. So if I were to ask you to look at yourself, where are you at right now? What's your state like? You don't come up with some answer, right? Most people would go to their life circumstance, for example. Oh, right now I'm looking for a new job, or
I'm on the move, or I'm trying to find out what to do, I'm on a holiday, or whatever it is, right? Some general story that describes your apparently present circumstances. When you're talking within perhaps the time frame of a month or a couple of weeks or something like that. So you can observe yourself in terms of thinking about yourself and your life and your experiences, conceptualizing yourself and your life. That's what most commonly people would do. If you would ask anyone, contemplate on yourself or reflect on yourself or observe yourself. What do you observe? And people usually dive into their thoughts that they have of themselves. Well, I've recently gone, I don't know, vegan, and then I got really sick and now I'm back eating meat again or something like that. That's kind of who I am right now, or where I'm at right now. So that's a conceptualization of myself, the thoughts I have of myself. And you can analyze them, again, using thoughts. Why would I do this? Why do I make these decisions? How come I'm always feeling so anxious or so sad or so happy at the moment? Maybe that's rooted in a childhood trauma or something like that. And you can talk endlessly with your therapist or with your friends or online about your life and yourself in that way. So that's conceptual knowledge of yourself. And obviously this is very unreliable. It's constantly subject to change. The way you perceive yourself, the way you conceptualize yourself and your life and people around you and the world and the universe in general, it can constantly change. Well, now I'm feeling like this. In a couple of minutes I'm feeling different. Now I'm angry at that. In an hour I feel happy about this. Now I like myself, now I hate myself. So this is very unreliable. It is not really a solid, firm ground that you would want to build a solid structure on, because the ground itself is constantly changing. Concepts are always in flux. Thought is always in flux, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to be a genius to see that. It takes a little bit of introspection to see that your thoughts are constantly changing. Your feelings, your emotions are constantly changing from minute to minute. So if you try to build a self-image on something that is changing as fast as your mind, you're going to be super restless. Unreliable too. And subject to circumstance too. Subject to external influences. Because your whole conceptual framework, where does it come from? What created it? What is it that informs your brain? Where is your brain downloading information from? Right? It's not producing the information itself. It comes into the brain through books, media, etc. I always say that. All you know right now comes from where? What you've read, what you've seen, what you've heard, people you're spending time with and so forth. Like most of the knowledge we have comes from elsewhere, doesn't it? It isn't made by me. It's just kind of parroted information. And we are rewarded for that too in school, for example. If you're given a piece of information and you're able to replicate it, you're rewarded for that. You get the A because you're saying exactly what the teacher said. So you're a good copier, copying machine. And that's good for certain purposes, but it's really bad for others. For example, it completely disables your own ability to come up with your own thoughts, your own original thoughts. Like you would have to if you were just raised somewhere in a jungle or something like this, and you had no or not many external influences that would somehow shape your mind. You'd have to come up with things. Like you'd have to invent fire, like how to make fire or something like that. You'd have to come up with it. Right? And there is a couple of things that we all have learned in our lives, and a couple of things that we came up with, like that are original to us. And that's what makes an individual interesting, in my opinion. It's like, how individual are you? Like, what is it that originally comes from you? Or are you just a walking ideology? Right? Are you just replicating information you've seen in that little box in your hand or on the wall that tells you how to think, what to like, what to do, what to buy? Who you're supposed to be? Yeah. So that's conceptual knowledge. Super unreliable. Now the other form of knowing is direct knowing, non-conceptual knowing. The direct perception of what is just as it is. So that doesn't allow for much time, because you cannot know what's going to happen in 0.1 seconds. You cannot know directly what happened 0.1 seconds ago. You can only ever know exactly what is happening right now. And that too isn't complex. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So what are you experiencing right now? If you wouldn't go into any conceptualization, any thinking about your experiences, you look directly at your experience, then what do you experience? What's there? Forget all words. You're obviously still experiencing, even if I were to take the ability to label stuff away from you. You're still experiencing something, right? But what is that? If you couldn't call it any names. That's the type of looking, direct knowing, that I'm talking about. And that is a type of knowing that leads to spiritual growth, to real insight into the actual nature of yourself and your experience. You can still, just now for this talk's sake, split up the things that you're knowing. They are directly observable. And they are just sense activity, really. That's all it is. So if you look directly at your experience right now, you can say, there is an experience of sound. That's one of the possible experiences I can have. It's hearing. Experience of sound. It's a strange thing to hear sound. We take it totally for granted. We think we know, oh yeah, that's a bird, that's an aircon, and like we're immediately conceptualizing it, so it feels like unalive. It doesn't feel like worthy of investigation. Well, it's just an aircon. What's so special about that? You stop paying attention as soon as you can put a word on it. Have you ever noticed? It's kind of funny. I always mention that example when we go on to our morning excursions with people onto a beach or something, and then they would ask, what's that beach called? What's the name of that beach? It's so beautiful. What's the name of that beach? There is a restlessness that makes you want to ask that question. You're feeling uncomfortable not knowing the name, because as long as you don't know the name, you don't really know whether you're safe. So as soon as you know the name, it's like, okay, now I can forget about it. You can put it into that little drawer, into your brain, and you lock it away. And now you can go back to your mindless rumination process of thinking about other stuff. That is now like kind of just, there's a check mark. Now I know the name of the place. I know where to find it on Google Maps. If I want to go back there later, check. So I can forget about it now. It doesn't pierce through to my awareness anymore as much as it did a couple of moments ago when I didn't know the name of it. It was a bit unsettling because I was kind of forced to pay attention. And I'm not used to that. I'd rather want to be lost in my daydreams in my head than paying attention to what's going on in this moment. Since it pulls us out of our comfort zone, we're just being in dreaming mode on autopilot. So there seems to be that, to like putting a label onto something, putting a name onto something. If you don't do that, you're left with a slightly unsettling feeling of, what is this? What am I experiencing here? What is hearing? What is sound? Such a weird experience. Imagine, you're born into a vast universe, whatever, 200 billion freaking light years is currently measured at something like that, which is unimaginable. I'm sure that's not it. They'll uncover more clusters and galaxies and whatnot. It's so unbelievably vast. I highly recommend you guys go on YouTube and just check out those little videos that show you how big the universe really is. Let your mind be blown by that a little bit. And there is somewhere in this vastness, there is this little blue planet, and then you are in that little bag of flesh and bones and blood and whatever kind of liquids, and you're conscious of your environment, which is equally as weird, like green stuff around you and like little blocks and boxes where little flashbacks go in and out. And then you make sound talking, right? You make sound that other people think they understand. You're describing your experience and they go, yeah, absolutely. That the same kind of thing happened to me. I totally understand you. And then you also feel like you really know what life is and who you are and what you're doing. It's complete delusion. All that because you're not paying attention at all. As soon as you start paying attention, you see, wow, it's a firework of stuff that I have absolutely no idea what it is. It's just magic. But you take it for granted because you fall back. You go into a state of like sleepy drowsiness where all you know is your concepts of the world, but you don't know it directly. You have no access to the aliveness that is underneath everything. And so observing your senses is a good way to come back to that. Just paying attention to sound. What else is there? Feeling, right? Equally as bizarre of an experience. I'm in this universe, a conscious point in this universe, experiencing feeling. What a weird phenomenon to experience. Feeling. What is that? If you don't put any label onto your feeling, like sad, angry, depressed, whatever, you don't put any label on it, then what is it? It's inexplicable. It's becoming magical again, interesting, a curious thing to watch and observe. Is it sadness, or is sadness just a word? What is it really? Let's have a look. You cannot find out what it really is by thinking about it, but you can find out what it really is by directly looking at it. And what will you find out? Well, there is just a flurry of energetic electrical sensations moving really fast, changing from second to second. And that in itself isn't really a problem at all. It's just movement. like wind, something like that. So we've got sound, we've got feeling. What else is there? Taste and smell. Again, totally bizarre. You put something into that hole in your face, and then you taste it. Try tasting your food. Like, just give it a shot. Like, how often do we do that? Most people don't even have no awareness when they're eating food. Their mind is somewhere else always. So if you're eating, try to really taste. And you think, oh, that tastes very sweet. Really? What do you mean by that, sweet? What's the experience without the word sweet? It's just a weird thing again. Super strange. Same goes for smell. And sight. You're seeing shapes and forms, which could be two-dimensional, but your brain turns them into something three-dimensional. Who tells you that what you're seeing is actually out there? Maybe it's not. Think of a dream. Is what you're seeing out there? Like if you dream of a nice beach, and you're there in the hammock, sipping on a margarita or something. Is the margarita outside of you? Is the beach, the hammock outside of you? Is even your body outside of you? Well, in the dream you think so, right? Oh, look, over there. Such a beautiful view. It's over there, but really it's all inside of you. You just don't know. So couldn't that be the same with this reality right here, right now? Maybe it's just another type of dream. Who knows, right? We don't know these things. As soon as you think you do, the magic just goes away. Because you stop paying attention. You put it in your little drawer. You say, I know. I know what it is. It's physically explainable. You know, brain scientists have found out that blah, 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 blah. I just read this article online and I've Googled it and I know. Okay, so you can switch off your awareness. You can go back to dullness again because you know. So what you're saying when you say I know, every time you say I know is I'm not learning anymore. My growth has finished. I know. You could equally say I'm stuck. It's the same. I'm stuck on this current level of thinking rather than direct perception of what is real. It isn't such a big of a deal, really, to see directly into experience. What else is left? Well, there's all the inner stuff, thinking, conceptualizing, tendencies like intention, wanting, not wanting, resisting, craving, clinging, all this kind of stuff that's internal. That's mental stuff. That also is part of our experience. It just works like all the other senses. There's a bunch of internal information and you pick up on it, you notice it. So what about thoughts? If you were to observe them like sound or like feeling, then you would notice, wow, they're pretty similar. They come and they go. Just another type of wind, another type of water. Just some dust that moves through the space of the room, something like that. If you look directly at a thought, without conceptualizing it, but looking directly, then where does it come from exactly? Where is its origination point? Where do you feel it to start? Does it happen in your body? If so, where? Is it outside of your body? Then if so, where exactly? Where within consciousness does a thought emerge? And then where does it go once it's finished? Like say, you think apple. There's the word apple that arises and an image of an apple that arises. So where do these two things arise? Where do they come from? What do they emerge out of? And where do they go once they're thought through? It's super interesting to observe directly your experience as it is alive within you. For example, if something makes you angry, you get really annoyed by something, rather than looking and contemplating about the downfall of this thing that is annoying you so badly, wouldn't it be much more interesting to look directly at your annoyance? What is it that is annoyed right now? Well, I am. What is that? Again, skip all the words. Look directly. Don't think about what you are. Look at what you are. Know it directly. That's direct knowing. That's a very rewarding thing when you practice meditation well. Then your ability to know yourself in your experience directly grows. If you don't practice meditation, then you won't have the necessary stability, because you'll be constantly caught up in what you know. If that makes any sense. Think of it a bit like a hurricane. There's the eye of the hurricane, right? And the eye of the hurricane is completely quiet. There's no wind in it at all. It's totally still. But around in the walls, it's this incredible storm. And the closer you get to the walls, the more you'll be pulled into that storm. And once you're in it, it's really hard to get out of it, to go back into the center. The deeper you're pulled into the walls, the clouds, the more difficult to get back to center. So having strong awareness is a bit like the eye of a storm. It's nice that they call it like the eye of a storm, which awareness could be called too. It's the eye of a storm. Because around that eye, that silent center of yourself, that quiet observer, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, none of which is really a problem to you, the eye of the storm. It's only a problem when the eye forgets itself and gets pulled into the storm, and you feel like turbulent. Oh, my life is so difficult, I have so many problems, I can't fall asleep at night, I have nightmares all night long, and then I wake up and I'm grumpy and I'm hungry and this and that. You're pulled into these dramas, into these stories. You're not an observer anymore. So that's the reason why we stabilize the mind with meditation practice. This is the only reason. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it with prayer, you can do it with a mantra, you can do it with a simple and quiet visualization. Nothing fancy and elaborate. You can't imagine flying over a landscape and call that meditation. That's just some relaxation exercise at best. Meditation means you're stilling the mind. You're stilling the observer by attaching it to an object, by letting it rest on an object. And as it rests there, the observer itself becomes very still. Once it is very still, you're in the eye. You are stable in the observing. Then you can observe things come and go more easily. And when you can observe things come and go, then you will know yourself not to be that which comes and goes. So you're not confusing yourself with things that come and go anymore. Because awareness stays. The thought comes and goes. But you're still here. The emotion comes and goes, clearly to be observed. Directly perceived, the emotion arises and passes. I haven't arisen and passed, though. Things come and go. I don't come and go, though. The more you understand that, the more you understand yourself, what you are. The less you're confusing yourself with things that come and go, the more you are at peace. That's the idea of meditation practice. So first we stabilize our lifestyle, we make it conducive to meditation practice, then we stabilize the mind, and then we see directly into the reality of things. So we can wake up from our little dreams and realize what is true, thereby not being bound up with what is untrue, thereby being free, released, at ease. That's the idea. All right? That's all that comes to mind for that topic today. Are there any questions?